So half of America's 4 million CDL drivers are running with less than 1 year medical card. Over 300,000 leave the industry each year, not because they can't drive, but because their health is failing them. So what if the solution isn't just better pay, but better personal maintenance, right? Today we're sitting down with Mr. Bob Perry, the driver health guy over at fitdrivers.com, to unpack how simple and proactive steps can actually save lives and keep our best drivers on the road. So, welcome to Legacy Decoded. This is a show where we dig into the real challenges and solutions shaping, today's trucking. I'm Calais Poteet, and this episode we're going to tackle an overlooked crisis, right? Driver health. And our guest, Bob Perry, has spent years helping drivers avoid failing DOT recertification exams. He's passionate about personal preventative maintenance and believes we need to look under the hood of driver health before it's too late. So, Bob, for those who don't know you yet, can you share your background and why driver health became your mission?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. I sincerely appreciate it. Anytime I get a chance to spread the word, I always feel fortunate to do that. Yeah, so I grew up in a family of professional drivers in Northeastern Ohio. I have two brothers that are still out there driving today, and happy to say one's got 3 million safe miles. The other one's got over 2 million safe miles. Our father drove for 40 some years, and as I say, he's really the one that really got me into it because he was a casualty of the industry. He drove all those years, and he graduated with a professional truck driver healthcare package, and that's high blood pressure, sleep apnea, diabetes,
Mm,
and unfortunately cut his life short. So I drove as everybody in my family was expected to do, right? That's what you did if you
mm,
grew up in a family of drivers, and did long enough to realize that it's not what I wanted to spend my career doing. So I spent my life career in the health and wellness, healthcare arena and technology, but always was really drawn back to this population because it's what I know. I understand the
mm,
mentality. I understand the language. I know what it's like to have a father gone for weeks at a time and get home, raise a big family and all those things and how important it is. And so I wanted to take my information and knowledge I had in health and wellness and come back and try to help drivers make simple choices out there and to be able to protect their livelihood and get them home safe to see their family.
awesome. And I think you've told me that half of CDL holders have less than a 1 year medical card. Is that true?
That's correct. So about 3 years ago, I decided that, and when after talking to so many carriers, and you'll find this very interesting. This is just,
Mm,
and still true today. I mean, I'm talking to a very large company right now, and there's so much money spent on recruiting, right? Going
mm,
after the next new driver, and they don't pay attention and they don't track how their current driving pool. Let's say they have 1,000 drivers.
mm,
Statistics show that out of that 1,000 drivers, most likely 55% of them are on less than a 1 year card, could be a 90-day card, getting ready to come up for recertification.
mm,
Instead of reaching out to those men and women, number one, they're skilled, they've been with you, right? You know about them and their
mm.
habits, and help them get ready for this exam coming up, their medical exam. And instead, they just continue to refill the bin, right, and get more drivers in. So I started this campaign, a podcast called Fit Drivers, sponsored by now 10th Street. And I bring in all these doctors and people from the FMCSA, the CDC, doctors and so forth to do the exams. And they say the same thing. It's just very discouraging that
Mm.
these men and women that have drove for a reasonable period of time, but because of the toughness of the job, they developed health issues. And so that's been my platform, is to be able to help these men and women recognize that, make changes, talk to carriers, get them to identify drivers that need help, that want help.
Mm,
And it's really not a driver shortage. It's a
mm,
shortage of vision to do
mm,
things differently, right? Instead of just, and where I learned it many years ago, I was visiting a carrier in Cartersville, Georgia, and I was in there talking to the safety man, And the director and his assistant came through the door and gave him this sheet of paper. And he goes, "Here," he said, I need, lost 10 drivers. We need to get them replaced." So he calls a recruiter in, and so he looks at the paper, and he says, "Okay," gets a recruiter in there and says, "Hey, I need to get drivers in here
Mm,
ASAP." Just took that piece of paper then and threw it away. And so I just was curious, and I just said, "Hey, do you mind? I just really, for my own information, why did those drivers leave or just get qualified? What was it?" We looked on the list and went down through there. 6 out of the 10 that got let go was because they had high blood pressure.
ouch.
I said, we could save those. He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, with some simple education and coaching and help them, you could
Mm,
keep those people in the seat." And I said, "I'd be curious to know, out of those 6 that you just let go, how long have they been with you?" And they've been with him for over 2 years. I
mm,
said, "You have good driving records?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Little, maybe some fender benders, but nothing serious." So the point is why would you not want to keep a skilled driver that you know today
mhm,
before you hire the next unknown driver tomorrow? And if you've been in this business and been in the
mm,
recruiting, you know the numbers. I mean, the
mhm,
fallout in the first 30 days is horrific. I mean, you get
mhm,
50 drivers in, and they're hoping that out of that 50, right, in the next 90 days, 5 of them will still be around.
mhm. Yeah, 100%. That is, wow, that's a very refreshing perspective, Bob. That is, when we think about driver retention, right? I definitely think the driver shortage is a conversation, but I think driver retention is even more important, right? So, like you said, just a little education, just a little coaching would be able to retain really great drivers who have been with you for some time, right? Which really wouldn't increase costs for looking for new drivers, and then also extending the longevity of great drivers that you already have on your team. So
Exactly.
that's brilliant insights, and I really appreciate you sharing that with me and the audience today. So there's 300,000 drivers a year, kind of leaving over health issues. What do you feel like that impact is having on families as well as fleets?
Well, it's collateral damage, my friend. I mean, you being a driver, I mean, when you couldn't drive anymore, fortunately, you found a niche. But as you know, your fellow
Mhm,
drivers, that's all they know how to do. I mean, that's what they do. There's not a lot of alternatives. So when that driver loses their opportunity to drive and create income for that family, it's devastation, right? The family goes
mhm,
without. And so it creates a real hardship. And then for the carrier, now they've got to, and I realize that part of the issue on this really is that you, once again, coming from the industry, there's whole departments and people that are in that business to recruit and
mhm,
chase drivers and get them in and take them through orientation and train them. There's a lot of people's jobs that are affected that's what they're hired to do, right?
mhm,
And so one of the things I noticed, that's some things I got a lot of pushback on, right? And but which did still not make sense, because you could supply that same manpower and help to put those people in a position to spend more time training the drivers coming in. Here's a really good example. One of the things that one of my um, first clients that I ever had was Covenant Transport. They gave me my first opportunity because I when I first realized what was going on, I started coaching drivers just on my own outside a truck stop in Cartersville, Georgia, and saw how they were responding. And a couple of them happened to work for Covenant, and so they lost weight and passed their DOT. So they called me up and said, "Hey, come up here. We want to talk to you." So they gave me 100 drivers, and they gave me 500. And before I knew it, I had their whole fleet,
wow,
a couple thousand.
wow,
And so, what we did is at that time, they had their own truck driving school. And so it was in Dallas. And so I said, "Can you give me, 30 minutes, 1 day a week? I want to put a coach in there and let them give a class on nutrition and chips and fitness and so forth." And this is why it's so simple and so elementary. If you go back, you may remember this from being in school when you used to do show and tell, right? So the coach would get up there and they would tell the drivers, "Listen, when you leave here today, I want you to stop at one of the truck stops and go in there and make a purchase of something that you think would be a good choice, right? And let's bring it in
Mm,
tomorrow. And we're talking about 30, 40 people in a class. And they
mm,
would, I mean, they were like students. They would actually do that. And they would bring it
mm,
in and they'd hold up this can or this soda or whatever. And,
mm.
thinking that was a pretty good choice. And one of the most simple things is that when they buy juice, they don't realize the amount of sugar that's in a can of
Yeah,
juice.
right.
And it's usually, right, a couple servings. And
Mm,
so they don't realize the amount of sugar they're taking in and they're sitting there. And of course, the other thing you quickly realize growing up in it that, most drivers are sports fans and NASCAR fans, right? And so
mm,
they get that. So, and I used to tell them, I said, listen, you're not run up and down a basketball court or, run around the track. I mean, you can't expel that kind of energy. So you need to find other means of doing that. You need to make better choices. And just doing simple things like that. And you said, I mean, it doesn't, I mean, if you just even gave them a nutritional book or even did a better job on serving them. I even have healthy meals now. I have designed for orientations. Drivers
mm,
can get, or carriers can order healthy meals and it comes with free access to an app.
mm.
And so they can, start the education. They're going to spend money to feed them anyway, right? An
Correct.
orientation, even through orientation, right? They
Correct.
bring it, and usually it's what, pizza, pasta, you know, and all the things that are not conducive to you maintaining
Mm,
good health. So for that
yeah.
same price point, and I surveyed, it's $8 to $10 they spend on a driver. You can buy one of these meals. It's got a healthy sandwich in it. It's got a
Mm,
protein bar in it. Comes with an application app that they can help. So, um, it's just not that hard to do, but it's just
mm.
getting carriers, like I said, to think differently and to have better vision.
Yeah. And it takes me back to when I was, my trainer specifically, he loved the truck stop pizzas. Like every time we stopped at the truck stop, he had to get a slice of the Love's or the Pilot's pizza.
Right.
Um, and I definitely understand how it can be difficult to eat healthy on the road sometimes, right? If you don't have like the best options, are you just not conscious of where to get those, better prepared meals?
Correct.
Um, so if you're listening and you're a driver or you know one, think about your last DOT physical. Were you confident or just hoping you squeak by? So Mr. Perry, I'd love to jump in. Can you share an example of a driver who turned things around with simple preventative steps?
Yeah, there's a recent driver now. His name is Mike Pitts. In fact, I just did my last podcast. He's on there. And actually, I just started, he's now going to be on the Women in Trucking with Ellen, the founder of Women in Trucking Radio, this Saturday with his doctor telling the story.
Mhm,
And here's a driver that was facing elimination. I mean, his health had gotten so bad. Doctor said, this is no joke. You got to do something. And, he made a very profound statement to me. He just said, Bob, I refuse to be health out of my job. I'm not going to lose
mhm,
my job because I can't, not smart enough or not willing enough to take care of my health. And he
mhm,
made a change and he got coaching, and this company helped him get coached up. And he not only passed, but he went back and got a 2-year card, which is amazing. I mean, it does happen, but it shows determination. And oh my gosh, he was a smoker and he quit smoking.
Wow.
He's smoke free now. And so, as you know, in that space as a driver, it's a hard habit to break.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it
Absolutely.
can be done. It's just, and it doesn't cost that much. As I say, we we spend carriers spend thousands of dollars on fuel, checking the
Mm,
fuel and all the wind and the elimination, to make the driver, less wind resistant going down the high, all the different things, right?
mm,
All the things, notifications and everything to do to keep that truck between the white lines.
mm,
And they can even identify a truck that's, hey, listen, shop manager, if you don't get these 5 rigs in there in the next, 100,000 miles, it's a possibility they're going to blow up. Well, if you think about it, engine blows up in a truck, what happens? It stops. But
mm,
if a driver's engine blows up, it's really it's a devastation because
mm.
it becomes now a lethal weapon out there going down the highway
Yeah.
under control. So for a fraction of cost, I mean, I I haven't gotten, one of the things I'm working on now is to get new estimates on what they're spending to get drivers in the seat. But I know from past experience, anywhere from 7 to 7,500. If they're hazardous waste, it could be 15 to 20,000 a driver. And
Mm,
you tell me you can't take $100 of that and invest in drivers that you know that need help and help them.
mm,
I mean, it just doesn't make economic sense. And it's interesting is when I confront and ask them, because we all know in trucking it operates on very small margins.
mm,
And when I ask them, you're always concerned about the ROI. Explain to me, if you could, I can help show you, I can save you a driver for $100 a year compared to hiring a new driver that you don't know how's going to stay with them for 7,000. How is that not a positive return?
mm. No, that's a huge ROI compared to what it costs to recruit a new driver, right?
Right.
Um, More than 10x ROI. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's brilliant. So health isn't just personal, man. It affects retention, insurance, safety metrics, right? You know,
exactly.
what's the first steps a driver can take today, right? Let's say a driver's watching this. What can they do today to improve their chances at their next DOT exam?
Well, take examination of what it is your threshold pain. Is it blood pressure? Is it sugar levels? What is it, right?
Mm,
And then just simple things of, you were talking about the truck stops. One of the things I recognized early on is when I first started and it became really a going concern and I couldn't do all the coaching. And then I started then have my own coaches. And so I, once a week, I'd say, tell me, what's some of the challenge you have? And you
mm,
just mentioned it when you had your trainer, right? The driver would say, hey, I want to go to stop at Walmart. I need to go in there and get some grocery shopping. I was recommended shop and prepare my own meals. And the
mm.
trainer goes, hey man, we ain't got time for that. Go in here and grab a bag of burgers. We're gone.
Yeah.
And so I realized I had to come up with a program to train the trainers, right? For them to
Mm,
supportive understand. But the first very simple step is just that. Not only do you save a lot of money, but just take the time, go, because most all the rigs now have really adequate refrigeration in them, right? And if
mm,
you don't get a cooler, it's cheaply enough. Invest in yourself and your health,
mm,
but um, you know, pre-pack. Have some healthy snacks in there and food in there that you can do. Turkey roll-ups. Have you some apples, peanut butter, those type of things, and healthier
mm,
snacks. Because when you were driving, how many times during the course of the week did you get stuck somewhere in traffic,
mm,
construction, bad weather, whatever? And my philosophy there is, if you don't have a good source to reach for, you make a bad choice. And so you're pounding drinks, or you're smoking cigarettes, or you're eating M&Ms, or you're whatever it is, right? And so have your little cooler there prepared, so if that does happen, you have something good to reach for.
mm.
And it's not that difficult to do. And I tell them, I live by the 50% rule. And the 50% rule is just make a good choice 50% of the time. you know
Nice.
and if and the other thing I like about working with drivers, truck and bus alike, compared to working what I call the residential sector, people that go to the gyms, they hire a personal trainer to go to the gyms. Typically those folks, if they don't look like everybody in the magazine in 30 days, they quit, right? They want
Yeah.
instant gratification.
Mm,
What I love about a driver is that if I can get that driver to lose 10 pounds, then what's going to happen is they're going to see their blood pressure go down. They're going to see
mm,
their weight go down. They're going to sleep a little better. And all of a sudden now it's the inside what I'm trying to do. And if they do it long enough, in 6 months, they look in the mirror and they go, oh my gosh, I look different. Well, I
mm,
even focus on it. It's the inside they're trying, because for them, when they walk out of that clinic, man, and they got that card in their hand, that is the lifeblood. I mean,
mm,
that allows them to go back out there and feed their families.
mm. Absolutely. And I spoke recently with Dr. Mark Monero from Project
Yes.
61, and we spoke a little bit about, the type of mindset that it actually takes to address the physical health, right? And discouragement, instant gratification, right? If we don't get the results that we're looking for instantly, we become discouraged. We may get these mental blocks that stop us from performing at a higher level. Um, how do you see the mindset? Is that a piece that you've been addressing inside of the coaching that you guys do?
Absolutely. When you first ask, what do you advise a driver to do? The first thing I say to him, man, hey, listen, you got to get a checkup from the neck up, my friend. Right? You got to get your head wrapped around this. This is
Mm,
serious, and you got to do the work. I
mm,
mean, and I don't like to make it sound like it's so easy, and it's not. Anybody's gone through this and try to lose weight, but they just got to look at it in small doses. I mean, I've been very blessed in my time doing this. One of the things I do, I give drivers who lose 100 pounds, I give them one of my gold and silver butt buckles. I'm happy to say I've given out a dozen of those.
mm.
And to get a driver to lose 100 pounds, anybody lose 100 pounds is a big deal, but to get a driver to do it, that's huge,
Yeah,
right?
that is huge.
But you can't look at it's a very daunting task if you think, God, I lose 100 pounds. All you're going to need to focus on is 10 pounds at a time and passing that DOT. That's the prize, right? That's the gold ring you want. You want to pass that DOT. And
Mm,
once you pass that DOT, then you just keep working at chipping away and chipping away. But he's right. I mean, it is a mindset, and you can't take too big a bite of the apple at one time. I tell drivers, most drivers I work with, they're north of 350 pounds. And,
mm,
getting them to get involved in exercise and movement is pretty tough. So the first thing I concentrate on is what they put in their mouth,
mm.
right? And
Yeah.
so they concentrate on what they put in their mouth, make those simple choices, and start losing the weight. And once they lose the weight, and the weight starts going down, they get a little more energy, and then they start doing just simple things, walking, carrying bands. I worked with Freightliner and created an actual exercise gym set that goes in the hooks up in the back of the Freightliner trucks.
Mm,
And like I said, and have the meals. There are a lot of things you could do, and put menus together for drivers. And then, there really is, I have to compliment the truck stops and travel centers, they like to be referred to now. They do have good choices in there. But
mm,
unfortunately, you got to look for them, right? You got to
mm.
find it. And what happens is they get covered over because they walk in, and what do they do? They smell the pizza, they smell the
Mm.
cinnamon buns, and you've been out there on the road for 12, 14 hours, right? And away from home. You've been out for a
Yeah,
week, and you come in, you smell that, and you go, man, I deserve that. And
man,
I
that's
get
a
it.
that's a deadly combo right there. That's Cinnabons and pizza. That's
Uh,
my go-to if I had to think about it, right?
oh yeah, yeah. And what happens is you get all that sugar in you, and you get that sugar
Mm,
rush going, and you get down the road, and pretty soon, right, you start bobbing and weaving, and now I got to reach for a power drink to get
mm,
myself back up, or a cup of coffee, and it's just a revolving cycle.
yeah.
But you just have to be able to make the choice. In the travel centers, you know, here's something too that it's interesting people don't realize. So the travel centers, just when you think there's not a place for another travel center, you look down and there's a sign, TA coming, pilot coming.
Mm, yeah.
They found another niche, another spot to put a truck stop in. So they
Mm,
become like really the 7-Elevens out there. A lot of their business, I don't realize, but a lot of their business every morning is driven by four-wheelers, and people
mm,
come in there, and this is where you have the real struggle, is because most of America, they're overweight, they're obese themselves, and
mm,
so they've got to cater to those people because they want to eat the junk, they
mm,
want the crap. So I never forget when one of the check stops changed, I called them up because I saw this press release. They were so excited, they opened up their 100th cinnamon bun. And I called him and said, "What are you,
mm.
crazy?" I said, "What is that doing to move the driver forward, driver's health forward, and helping them,
Right.
right?" So, um, but and when I do, a lot of times I'm fortunate enough to be able to go on satellite radio, and drivers will call in. They'll go, "Hey, Bob, when are you going to get these truck stops to stop selling this crap?" And I said, "Well, here's the
Mm,
tip, my friend. You stop buying that crap. You keep
yeah.
buying it, they're going to sell it, right? So we all got to do our part." And I
Right.
realize we're not going to save everybody. I get that. But I'm trying to save the ones who want help and want to get it done, and need help, because we don't have that many people out there. Myself, Dr. Manera, there's a couple others. Rolling Strong is another great
Mm,
source. Steve Kane, they're another really good source. And there's a lot of people out there that offer insurance products and services that can help these drivers.
Mm,
as well, owner operators, for example.
mm.
And one of the little things I've introduced and have several thousand drivers using it. It's a new device that you can use your cell phone camera and you hold it in front of your face, and in 30 seconds, it reads the blood flow under your skin, and it'll
Wow.
give you your blood pressure, your heart rate, and your BMI in 30 seconds. And it's a good way for you to take a quick measurement and, and see how you're doing and if you need to get tuned into something. So there's ways out there and just getting carriers to focus on, hey, we're like now they're going to have driver appreciation week coming up. I get
Mm,
that. That's a big week and that's good, but it should be driver appreciation day every day. I
yeah,
mean, right?
absolutely.
I
Yep.
mean, about there because they have, it's like, you know, everybody got recognized when the COVID came, right? Oh my gosh, it's like everybody never heard of a truck driver before, right? They're praising everybody, truck drivers. They're out there working, still moving, keeping America
Mm.
going, yada yada. And so as soon as COVID got over and everybody got back to their routine, they're going, truck driver, what? I mean, who? I mean, they're lined up in the street, giving them food and all that kind of stuff, But now it's on back to, it's like, you know, it, it just should be something that we do every day. And I know that when they do these truck driving events, I know they're trying to do the right thing, but very few of them do anything to take the opportunity to show the drivers they care about their health.
Absolutely. I love the impact and the mission. I'd love to talk a little bit about, what it took to kind of build fit drivers. How has that, that relationship with 10th Street kind of been for you? We've had, been fortunate to bring Mr. Kevin Adu on a couple of years ago and, have a really great, I think he was maybe one of our first guests when we started doing these streams. How has 10th Street and just building fit drivers, kind of looked for you uh, in the past?
Well, yeah, thank you for asking that. And it's what it's about is I've been very lucky. I mean, 10th Street is my national sponsor that helps me do the podcast.
Mm,
I've got a lot of great brands out there. Michelin has been they supported by meals. I rolled the meals out. Uh, Freightliner trucks, Daimler, they've been a big support. I mean, Estes, the other thing I do is every November I do the 22 for 22, 22 push-ups a day for 22 days to bring recognition to the average of 22 veteran suicides a day that go
mm,
on because 10% of our drivers are veterans.
mm,
So I've been very blessed to have a lot of these companies as national sponsors for me to help me keep the movement going and bring more awareness and be able to go out there and do these events like Women in Trucking. Every year it's grown. This will be the 6th year I've done it, and I start doing it because it's the first 22 days in November,
mm,
and it's been around for a long time, but it died off because what happened is that people got away from the real meaning of it is to bring awareness and get people to do the 22 push-ups, but then give $1, $5, whatever to an organization.
mm,
Mine I support is Waypoint Vets, and so we raise money for them so the drivers have somebody to call when they're out there. And as you know, there's a lot of windshield time out there, my friend, when you're driving down
mm,
the road. And if you are a veteran and things come back to haunt you, my goal is to have them the ability to be able to talk to somebody before they make a bad decision, right?
mm,
So, but people like 10th Street have been very supportive. They also support me for the 22 for 22. They've done that for this would be the 3rd year. So a lot of companies that help me do that. Great Dane Trailers is another one.
mm,
Alcoa Wheels. It just, if you on my site, there's a lot of enrollment first. A lot of people that help me keep the mission going and keep the movement going and just raise awareness. That's what I'm trying to do, and to get more drivers, companies, more importantly,
mm,
do the right thing.
mm,
I tell companies when they do call me and they ask for suggestions and help, this is what I tell them. I tell them, I don't know what program's the right program for you
mm.
based on your economics and what you have available and your driving pool and all that. But I do know the wrong one, and that's to do nothing at all. You got to
Absolutely.
do something. I mean, it's just that simple, and it's not that hard.
Mm,
One of before the pandemic hit, one of the best jobs I had. I loved this job. I once a month, companies would have me come to their orientations, right, and their safety meetings, particularly. And when they bring everybody into a safety meeting, have me come in, and I would talk about driver health and awareness and going through and what you could do, simple changes you could make to do right. And like we said, pack your truck, your refrigerator, and have things prepared. And and when I this is something that really was an eye opener for me. Why I really got behind it even harder was is that um, orientation. I'd be in front of 200 drivers, right? Orientation. They're come to orientation. I start talking to them about blood pressure and all those things. You would be amazed how many would raise their hand. They go, "What do you mean?
Mm,
And they could take me off the road if my blood pressure is too high?"
mm, mm, mm. Yep. Mm, yeah. 100%. Yeah, fit drivers. So, what's working well for you guys right now? What's kind of been the most frustrating? Mm, 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 mm. Yeah, 100%. And I guess in the next 6 to 12 months from now, where do you see fit drivers? Where do you guys? What's on the roadmap? Mm. Gotcha. How has social media been an instrument to, the visibility that you guys, as far as getting fit drivers in front of companies? Has it played a huge part, or what's working well on just, getting those? Mm, Yeah. Yeah. Mm, mm. That's a great, yeah, great gift. Yeah. Mm. Oh, nice. Mm, mm. Gotcha. Yeah, 100%. And if there was one, I guess, one major challenge today, what would that be? If you could solve one major challenge today. Mm, gotcha. Bob, you've shown us that driver health isn't a side topic today. It's the difference between staying behind the wheel and hanging up the keys, right? So for anyone listening, a few key takeaways. Don't wait for a failed DOT physical. Start preventing steps now, right? Fleets who invest in wellness keep drivers longer and safer, and personal preventative maintenance actually works. It's never too late to look under your own hood. So be proactive on that. Bob, where can drivers and fleets connect with you to learn more about preventative maintenance and your work? Mm, 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 mm. Awesome. For everyone listening, share this episode with a driver who actually matters to you, right? Subscribe to Legacy Decoded Fleet Connect. Subscribe. If you have questions, leave them in the comment section. Reach out to Mr. Perry, Fit Drivers. His mission is very, very transparent. He's definitely looking to help people stay healthy on the road. Healthy drivers mean a healthier industry, right? Um, and also, Bob, thank you for putting a spotlight on something, too many fleets overlook, essentially. The health of people behind the wheel. So if you take one thing from today's episode, let it be this. Your CDL is only as strong as your health. So don't wait for failed exam or a wake-up call. Start your own personal preventative maintenance today. Take the time to look under your own hood before your body forces you off the road, right? This is going to impact your longevity, your career, your family. And for fleets and drivers alike, healthy drivers mean safer roads, public safety, a stronger industry. So share this episode with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so you don't miss future conversations like this. And most importantly, take care of yourself out there. The miles ahead depend on it. Mr. Bob, is there anything else you would love to kind of just leave the audience with today? Mm, absolutely. Well, Mr. Perry, I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for, joining into this conversation and being a guest for us. It's been a great conversation, and I think a lot of people need to get this information very, very quickly. Thank you again.